Hey friends, welcome to You Don't Have to Die, where I will share my journey to give hope to those in darkness. Today's episode, called I'm Not Going to Church, is a statement that I used to say about 2 years ago, where I absolutely wanted nothing to do with Jesus, church, the community, the lifestyle. It just wasn't for me. At least that's what I said before. Actually, if a person brought up Jesus or God to me, I would get extremely annoyed, agitated, and completely tune them out. I rationalized in my head that I was an ungodly person, so why would I step foot in the church? That is a horrible thought process, but it is how I used to think. And I thought turning to God would make me into a boring, goody two-shoes girl, not living life to the fullest and missing out on partying and carrying on, which I thought was freedom. And living holy was something I never even thought was possible. And I surely didn't think that living holy was freedom 2 years ago. You were not getting me to go to the church, and that was just the end of the story. So just keep this in mind. Now, about 4.5 years ago, I saw my friend Jenny's marriage deteriorate right in front of my eyes because I lived with them for some time. Her and her husband couldn't be in the same room or speak to each other peaceably. I already had it in my mind that a divorce was coming. This reminded me of my mother and father. They got divorced when I was young and their relationship was very toxic, so it was normal for me to see people divorce if they disliked each other. I remember Jenny was so broken, went to El Bethel International Ministries Church by herself because someone in the church gave her the information. Jenny went one way and came back completely different all of a sudden. She got prayed over by Pastor Kiruba. God gave Jenny the strength through that prayer to follow the counsel that was given, and she was dancing around, praying all over, singing that her marriage was going to be restored and her husband was coming back. I'm like, what is this lady talking about? But I was there, I was listening, and I was like, this pastor doesn't understand how bad this truly is. The man left for Florida. What does she mean that he's coming back? But shortly after that prayer, Jenny's husband, Jeff, came back from Florida and their marriage was restored. I was like, okay, something is happening at this church, but still I didn't go. I'll post the link to Jenny's testimony so you can hear for yourselves. But this increased my faith. Even when I had zero faith in God, before this, always stuck in my mind. Even when I did not want to hear about God, I saw that God did a miracle before my eyes because of the prayer that came from Pastor Kiruba. And when I was dealing with my brokenness, Jenny was praying and knew exactly what to do, which is tell Pastor Kiruba that I was broken and on drugs and no one knew the full extent of what I was going through because I lied about it many times. I fought coming to the church. All I wanted to do was die. I thought my situation is the worst. It's worse than anyone else's. No one can help me. Death was my only option. And then all of a sudden, I went from wanting to die and trying to do so daily to then wanting to live. And looking back, I know that Pastor Kiruba prayed for me to come out of that grave and come to church. That stronghold the enemy of our souls puts on people to not come to church was lifted off. I was dying every day on the floor, literally, which I'll get into more detail in a different episode. But for me to all of a sudden have this strong urge and desire to come to church is only because God commanded me to do so through Pastor Kiruba's prayer at ELBIM so my life could change. And January 22nd, 23, my life changed forever. I didn't know what I was in for. I didn't know, but I was happy. I received prayer that changed my life. And the kicking I did when it came to going to church for years was because I was about to be set free by God through my pastors, which I didn't know prior to walking in. Walking in the church was the first step to my healing and deliverance and miracles. I am no longer annoyed by God or church. As you can see, if you're my friend on Facebook, I will not stop talking about my Jesus who is alive. What stuck out most was that my pastor's passion and love for Jesus shined through their lives, which really drew me in. And when I spoke to Pastor Kiruba and she prayed and revealed my heart to me and all I went through, I was not shunned for being a sinner, but shown so much love, which led me to turn to Jesus. Surprisingly, I was not annoyed either, but actually refreshed in their presence and wanted more because Jesus lived inside of them and my soul responded well to them. Like when you meet a person and you just know deep within your soul, it just clicks and feels safe. That's how it felt. And I went from I'm not going to church 2 years ago to now I'm not missing church for anything. Jesus is alive. He speaks to us through our shepherds, and those supernatural miracles and healings and deliverances that Jesus did 2,000 years ago is happening today at El Bethel International Ministries Church through my pastors. You don't have to die. Come and meet Jesus who saved me from death for yourselves at ELBIM through Pastor Kiruba, Pastor Pradeep, all my pastors and their family. See you next time, and stay tuned for more of You Don't Have to Die.